founders of Camo Conversations. So, Camo Conversation is an initiative that started in the month of July. That was a thought that came to our mind. And it was after we both went to our first SSBs, and it was a wholesome experience, yet a learning that both got. And Camo Conversations is all about bringing on our leaders from all walks of life, but especially our military leaders who have given so much to not just the organization, but our country, and are very less spoken about, or maybe when they're spoken about, some of the people don't get the context of what are they speaking about, what are the things that they have done, and how much it has helped us as a society and a country to shine through in the world that we do. All the closed door work that has went behind. So it is about telling the tales of bravery, courage, and all the good things that have went behind to make our forces so strong and our country stand still at its stance at a global level. So we welcome you on board, sir, and it is an honor having you.
Thank you, Shivani, and thank you, Tavni. It's a pleasure to be sharing my journey with you both. Thank you so much for this
Thank
opportunity.
you so much, sir. Sir, it is an honor, first of all, to have you here with us. And thank you so much for accepting the invitation at such a short notice. I mean, everything just happened all of a sudden. So, first of all, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. And we now begin while introducing you. So, it is an absolute honor for us at Camo Conversation to host a soldier, a scholar, whose career seamlessly bridges operational command, strategic thought, and institutional leadership. Major General ND Prasad, Vicious Seva Medal, brings with him nearly 4 decades of distinguished service in the Indian Army. Having commanded formations across India's most critical theatres, from the Strike Corps on the Western Front to mountain formations along the LAC, an alumnus of the prestigious National Defence Academy, the Defence Services Staff College, Army War College, and the National Defence College. He combines battlefield experience with deep academic rigor in strategic leadership and national security. Beyond command, General Prasad has shaped minds as an instructor at Officers Training Academy and National Defence Academy, as a dean and chief instructor at the Army War College, and as the force behind the Army's Faculty of Military Leadership. Internationally, Sir represented India as Deputy Defense Attaché in Beijing and later served as the Deputy Director General at the Center for Contemporary China Studies, Ministry of External Affairs. Post retirement, Sir's leadership continues at Rashtriya Raksha University and across think tanks, startups, and policy institutions. Today, we are privileged to engage with him not just as a decorated military leader, but as a mentor, strategist, and a thought leader shaping India's security discourse. Sir, once again, we welcome you to the Camera Conversations second episode. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation, and we're looking forward to some thought provoking interaction that we will be doing in the coming course of time.
Tavni and Shivani, it's a privilege for me to be part of your conversation this evening. And what you have both embarked upon is an extremely novel endeavor, which I'm sure will serve the youth of this country and motivate them in service of the nation. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. We'll now begin with the questions without any further ado. Yes, Shivan.
The first question that I would like you to reflect upon and share more light on is how did your journey start? Was being a part of the army always the first choice since childhood, or was it a dream that seeped in much later?
You know how it happened was I was born in an army family. So I grew up, my father was in the army, he was an army officer. And then we kept traveling with him, experiencing the life in cantonments in the border areas, and saw how he was doing his service to the nation. And that kind of was at the back of our mind as we grew up as children. We kept moving from one place to another, kept changing schools, making new friends, adapting to new environments. And as this happened, uh, it's just a coincidence that while I was in class 8th, a bunch of senior students got through the UPSC and joined NDA, it didn't really strike us much that time. We said, "ठीक है, they've gone to NDA." I was looking at engineering or medicine or something of that sort because I was good in academics. I was in the first one or two positions in my class always. So when they came back after 6 months after having a crew cut and they came back much leaner, stronger, fitter, I would say more confident, they came back and met with us and shared their experience of first 6 months at the academy. That had a bit of an impact on us. And then we all realized the first thing that came to our mind is uh, out of the school, no studies, to be honest with you. And then, of course, the life of what appeared to be a life of glamour, adventure. As you go along in this journey, it is quite different to actually what it appears to the outsiders. But these young boys who came back after 6 months with the transformation that they had gone through, that they had been through, was actually one of the important moments, which maybe was a deciding factor. Then I went into the next school, went into higher classes. I was in class ninth or 10th, and another set of 4 or 5 seniors joined NDA and came back with their blue NDA blazers and were, meeting us and sharing their experiences, how tough it was there and how the training was. It was quite appealing to us young boys looking at these just 2 years older than us boys transformed into men, young men, much more confident, much more focused. And I would say that was a defining moment when I told my father that, look, I'm putting in my application for the UPSC entrance for the NDA. He was extremely unhappy. He said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "You wear a uniform, so why don't you want me to join the army or Navy or Air Force?" So he was not very happy. He thought I could do better somewhere else. But I did apply. He had to countersign my application. So that was, I would say, one of the factors. Second thing, which was very important for me as I grew up, was I was fortunate to see a lot of these award ceremonies where gallantry awards were being presented, the investor ceremonies, as you call them. So when they would read out the citations of young officers and young soldiers who were martyred in defending the country, either along the borders or in fighting insurgency or in aid to the civil authorities during calamities, it was extremely motivating. As those citations were read, they were captivating. I said, this is something extremely, I would say, demanding of us in terms of commitment. And maybe it is something which would contribute to nation building. That was another defining moment. So these are a few things which kind of shaped my mind as I grew along. And I had made up my mind by the time I came to class 10th that this is something which I would like to do. So there are a number of factors. My father being in the army, seniors joining academy, and these investor ceremonies, and the Republic Day parades. I was in NCC, so we used to do those parades. It's very nice. Discipline, I would say courage, commitment to the country. All those were very important factors. And of course, on a lighter note, we thought no studies anymore. But that was, of course, a myth. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. That really gave us a very different perspective onto how an individual can also be motivated to join the Indian Army. Moving forward, sir, what was that one belief about being a soldier or being a leader that was something that you had to unlearn during your training at the National Defense Academy as well as uh, at the Indian Military Academy? What was that one myth that was busted, except for the studies part?
No, I think when we joined the academy, first thing was we were a bunch of boys who came from different backgrounds. We didn't know each other. There were 350 of us bundled together. Of course, there were those who came from the RIMC, the King George's School, and the Sainik schools who were, who were, I would say, well grounded and they knew the system well. But those of us who were not from the boarding schools, who were, coming for the first time out of the house, for us, it was kind of a attempt to adapt to a system which was extremely regimented. So while we were very independent thinking, while we were in the school, we could have our own thoughts. We could do what as we liked. There were no restrictions imposed on us. I think all that came under a bit of a controlled environment. It was highly regimented, highly disciplined. And then what was striking was, as batchmates, as coursemates, we were like a band of brothers. We would do anything for each other. But it took some time for us to develop that confidence, that trust in each other. This part of group dynamics, it takes time. You go through the process of understanding each other. But the system in academy is so evolved that they put you under stress as soon as you join. And I think adversity produces the best amongst us. So the while the regimentation and the routine itself is extremely demanding, the routine within the squadrons where we used to live, other than the academic blocks, where our seniors were, I would say, as part of grooming, would put us through, I would say, additional training. I would not give it another name, which would toughen us up mentally and bring us together as one team. They would put us through those stresses to ensure that we stand by each other as a course mate. It's extremely important to develop that bond. So the academy has an evolved system in which the seniors also play a major role in adding those, giving those stimuli for stress, which will only induce brotherhood and camaraderie. So that's very important. That's something which we realized that immediately as we joined the academy, you're no more going to be a one-man army. It's a team. You, much as in war, it's not a one-man army. It's a team that works. So you have to shed that orientation that you have that I'm going to do it alone. It doesn't work. You have to guide your team, you have to lead your team, you have to be part of the team yourself and be as good as every other member in the team. That's important. So this is something which I learned in academy. Yeah. And when you go on to IMA, the training gets more focused towards, what next? You're going to be an officer, you're going to be leading men. Wearing those stars is extremely, privileged when you get commissioned, but it comes with a great amount of responsibility, which dawns on you as you're about to pass out from the IMA. So one has to prepare for that moment when your leadership is thrust on you. You can't start learning at that point in time. So 1 year that we spend, those of us who go from NDA to IMA, 1 year that we spend at IMA is extremely serious business in trying to develop yourself as that leader that your soldiers would expect you to be when you lead them in operations. There is no scope for any one of us to fall short of the expectations. We have the best soldiers, they deserve the best leadership. So I think that 1 year is devoted by all of us in building our leadership skills in our own way. Everybody is unique. Everybody, we cannot be identical. In our own unique way, we identify our strengths and weaknesses, work on our weaknesses, and try and be the role model that our subordinates expect us to be when we get into positions of leadership. So that's the most important thing. So you unlearn being yourself, being selfish, I would say, self-centered, being individuals that you are with the independent thought process, and you become an organizational person. So the behavioral change that happens in academy and both in ND and IMA is to convert you into a organizational man, a team man who works for the team, who can lead a team. That's most important. Yeah.
As Sir explained it very well, that the leader was shaped by all his seniors in the academy. Then I would like to know that from a leadership and operational standpoint, mm, how would you reflect upon your experience of commanding exercise Indra in the year 2007? What did it
Yeah.
reveal to you about the military jointness and the diplomacy that we are getting.
Indra was a very unique experience for me because I was handpicked to lead the tri-service delegation. It was a battalion of the Indian Army, um, a task force of the Navy, and a component of 100 Air Force people, pilots, fighter pilots, helicopter pilots, transport pilots, and the ground crews. It was a huge contingent that we all embarked upon. So I was handpicked by the chief then because of my experience in having served in China, having worked in a number of assignments which involved, tri-services orientation. Notwithstanding that, this particular training event, which was outside of India, firstly, there was no scope for us to, in any way let India down. We are projecting India, diplomacy apart, we are projecting India as a regional power, which has the capacity to prosecute integrated operations across multiple domains. So that was the underlying theme. So I had got hold of these people, the soldiers, the officers, the sailors, the task force commanders, and the pilots and everybody. And we had no common platform actually of communication or even common working parameters. The three services were operating on their own parameters. So, and since it was not a organization which existed, it was cobbled up for the exercise. Everybody was coming from different, I would say, operational environment to get them on to focus on the exercise Indra mandate proper. We had to do a number of internal, training activities. So I had to train the Army, Navy, and Air Force. We did about three training staff exercises to get everybody on board so that we all come to common understanding and common working parameters. So that we come out as a team. So that was very important. So the team building took me about a couple of exercises at home in India, and then I had the opportunity to visit Moscow, Russia, I would say. I went to Vladivostok twice as part of preparatory activities to see the terrain that we're going to operate in, to meet my counterparts in the Russian Army, Armed Forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, and understand their practices, their operational philosophy. Sit down with them so that when you're working with another country, the languages are different, the customs and traditions are different, operation philosophies are different. And the Russian commander, who was my counterpart, had come back after successful operations in Syria. So there was so much that I could pick up from him during our interactions. So this was an opportunity for us to train with a well-trained army or armed forces and also put our best foot forward. So when we went there, this was India, as you're aware, participates only under the UN mandate. We do not participate as an alliance of any other country. So when this exercise was being set, it was very clear between Russia and us that we're going to do a counter-terrorism exercise together under the UN mandate. And we had chosen Vladivostok because that gave us the opportunity to also use the maritime domain besides the airspace. And that is how we carried out this training in one of their extensively developed training grounds in Russia. And our task force which came there, our pilots who came there, and the battalion which went there, including I had crews from the Indian Armored Corps, the tank crews, the artillery crews, and air defense crews. All these crews which came there had a great opportunity of interacting with their counterparts from the Russian armed forces, and we were able to showcase our operational philosophy, our operational capabilities on a global platform. This was being viewed by the entire global media as to what we both are coming to do together. And this was an opportunity for us to tell the world that India is against terrorism, firstly, and India would like the whole world to come together to fight terrorism, which India has been India's stand in all the world global platforms. And we'd also made it very clear that this exercise that India and Russia are doing under the UN mandate is as part of Indian government's uh, thought process of countering terrorism and preventing terrorism and ensuring peace and stability in our areas. So that was the message that we used. That is the diplomatic part of it. Militarily, I think we both learned from each other. What I would come back and probably when I came back to India and I had a word with our superiors here, I could tell them what the Russians were up to in terms of their integration between the three services. It was of great assistance to our theaterization process that we are going through because these inputs were extremely important for us. We had not yet embarked on theaterization. So the inputs that we gathered there and our own levels of integration that existed at that point in time were barometers for us to take the theaterization forward. So it was a great experience as far as coming off uh, together of the three services and understanding the philosophy for synergized price services operations. So I thought that was a great opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much for shedding light on that, sir. So the next question is maybe the simplest one, yet the most difficult one, sir. If you could distinguish between counter-terrorism and counterinsurgency, because for people who are not aware of this, for us, because we've learned through it, because we've studied it, we might know the difference. But for the common people who are not exposed to this kind of education, sir, how would you differentiate and distinguish between terrorism and insurgency, as well as counter-terrorism and counterinsurgency, sir?
See, insurgency by itself is a rebellion against the established government. Is within the country. What we are experiencing in the northeast is an insurgency, the Naga insurgency, the Mizo insurgency. What was happening in Manipur by various Indian insurgent groups? They were representing against the established government. They sought a different form of governance. They had different understanding of governance. They had different understanding of being part of Union of India, and therefore those uprisings happened. And as a result of these uprisings and resistance to the established government, the operations that we undertook were called counterinsurgency operations. These were against the people of our own country who were resisting the established government. So therefore, that's the difference. You are carrying out operations to bring in stability so that the political process of integrating these uh, groups into the mainstream can be carried out. That is the aim of counterinsurgency. Whereas terrorism, by definition, is an act that creates terror. It is not bound by any desire to, kind of take on the administration or the government. It is to put fear with the purpose of achieving a different aim. Aim is not to take over the government. Terrorism doesn't have boundaries. What we're experiencing as part of proxy war in J&K is something which I would put it. It's not insurgency. The indigenous component that is now been manifesting for some time is a result of the radicalization that has happened and not necessarily akin to what you are witnessing or what we are witnessing in the Northeast. So terrorism, by definition, since no country we have not come to a common understanding of terrorism as such. So therefore, is an act which is with the purpose of creating fear among the population to achieve a limited aim. Insurgency is a armed rebellion against the established government by the people of the same of the country. So that's the difference. So it is while insurgency is limited to the confines of the geographical boundary of a country, terrorism is, pan, I would say, pan frontiers. It doesn't have frontiers. It can be across any place. So what we are witnessing in many parts of the world is today is actually terrorism because it is not indigenous to a particular place. That's important to understand. The political purpose of insurgency is different to the purpose or the aim of a terrorist act. So therefore, that must be understood, and therefore the operation that you carry out in terms of counterinsurgency or counter-terrorism, the approach itself is different. In the case of a insurgency operation, since it is your own citizens who are resisting the established government, you would like to only carry out that much which would be required to bring in stability so that the political process can commence. And in that process, there is a great amount of restraint that is inevitable because it is your own people who are misguided. The operations therefore involve great amount of caution, restraint, and as we as we have evolved over a period of time, these are int-based operations. Precise intelligence to target only the leadership or those who are responsible to create the disturbances. That is not firing randomly at everybody, basically to minimize collateral damage. And therefore, restraint, use of minimum force is the guiding principle. As far as terrorism is concerned, since these are people who are really with no political aim but to create terror and to diminish the image of the local government or the central government, the approach to this would be more surgical, more I would say, and of course, the way Indian armed forces approach even terrorism, we try and avoid collateral damage. That is the approach that we have been. That's the setting that we have, default setting. We avoid collateral damage, and therefore our approach is extremely surgical. It's also intelligence based, but the kind of force that is applied, the methodologies followed are extremely different. Extremely different. While if you look at the way Mumbai happened, the force allocated for that was separate force, which is trained differently than the army units. Counterinsurgency operations are something which any infantry battalion of the army can do. Terrorist operations are specialized operations, which need specialized training. And therefore, having gone through the number of terrorist attacks, the creation of National Security Guard was actually one of those outcomes of understanding that approach to terrorism would require extremely specialized training and extremely different approach than counterinsurgency operation, and therefore normal infantry battalions should not be employed in counter-terrorist operations. That is the difference.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
sir.
So, on a lighter note, I would like to know that being a part of the army for almost 4 decades, how was your experience across different postings that you went through? Some must have been with family, some without them. So, how was the emotional roller coaster throughout these 4 decades that you have been to our
It's a good question, Shivani. But as a child, I was going through this with my father and mother. There were times when my father was not there. 71 war, my father was not there. I was staying with my mother, and there would be those air raid sirens, and we would go into the bunkers and come out of it. So we saw all that. We saw my mother kind of being the bulwark of the house, doing everything on her own, and was the one who was doing everything. My father was not visible for us except when he would come back after the war or the field postings. Much of my schooling, my father was not there. Alternate tenures of field and peace. So when I was in the formative years, when I was actually making up my mind to join NDA or not, my father was not there. So it was therefore, as I mentioned, the seniors in the school who used to come back and speak with us. And then all of a sudden, my father was surprised that I'm keen to join NDA, which he was not very not very happy about. But the fact is that having been through that kind of frequent transfers as a child, for me, when I was commissioned and joined the army, it was not much of a stress that it caused because it's part of the job. It was of a great amount of stress, I would say, or concern to my wife and my daughter. I have one daughter. So as we would leave them behind and go, uh, it was my wife who had to shoulder additional responsibilities that I would have done otherwise. But I think the way the ladies are groomed in the army, they're also broken into the army and groomed, and there is a great amount of bonhomie among the ladies. They come together. The bonding that we spoke of as band of brothers, a similar bonding exists between the ladies, the families. And we make conscious attempt in our units to ensure that officers' wives frequently meet the soldiers' wives to address their concerns and problems. And the commanding officer's wife looks after the welfare of the other officers' wives. And similarly, the senior commanders' wives look into the welfare and concerns of the juniors' wives. So that kind of a system is in place, and therefore, while it is quite stressful for the family members, the wives and the children, no doubt about it. But I think the ladies learn to come to terms with it, and they develop skills, capacities that are required to be independent. It makes them stronger, makes them resilient. They may not show their emotions to the children. Naturally, they won't. But I think they do carry those emotions within themselves, which are only shared when we meet.
It is actually great to listen. It just brings back all the memories. When my dad was forward transit, he when the sirens went off and the sheep were there. So I can relate to what you have to say. Thank
Yeah.
So, coming on to the last question for the day. When your former subordinates, your juniors, your students remember you, what is that one thing or what are those certain qualities you would want them to remember about you as a leader and as a mentor, and a message that you would
Yeah.
want to spread to the younger generation?
I was very fortunate to be commissioned into a unit. It's one of the oldest infantry battalions, first Dogra, which was converted to mechanized infantry. So, unlike infantry battalions, where people think that infantry battalions are extremely rigid, I mean, you have to listen to the orders. In my battalion, the way we were groomed, we were to be able to speak a mind. We were taught that professional disagreement or dissent is not disobedience. Disobedience only starts when you have been given an instructions for execution and you don't execute. But when discussions are on, when debates are on, when you're coming to solve a problem, during the problem solving process or the discussions, disagreements were the order of the day. So I grew up in that environment. And I was extremely fortunate that wherever I have served, that is the environment that I have actually been privileged to experience. Or maybe I ensured that I got that environment. Nothing stopped me from putting my views to my superiors the way I thought I felt. It is in the organization interest. So one of the most important things which I would suggest is that talking truth to power. Talking truth to power, it comes from a great amount of professional competence, integrity, character. This is some summation of all the leadership qualities that we all have learned over. So at the end of this, I feel your character, your moral courage, and of course your integrity. Integrity to the organization. It is not, and loyalty to the organization. Loyalty is not to superiors, to the organization. So these are the factors which are the guiding factors for all of us. And when we were passing out of IMA, we were pipped inside the Chetwood Hall. There's a Chetwood Hall inside the Chetwood building where we were pipped. We were given our stars or put on our epaulets inside the Chetwood Hall. And there's a fantastic saying by Sir Philip. I think that particular thing has been etched in a mind, at least in my mind, forever. So the safety, honor, and welfare of your country comes first, always, and every time. The honor, welfare, and of your subordinates comes next, and your own safety, welfare, and comfort comes last, always and every time. That has been the guiding beacon. So I feel, and I have followed that. So if I would like my subordinates or my colleagues or somebody to remember me, it is with the qualities that I was fortunate to follow all through my career in terms of uh, transparency, courage, moral courage. As you grow up from physical courage, as you grow to higher ranks, it is moral courage, character, and leading from the front, walking the talk. So these are the things. Discipline, of course, is important. So these are the things I would like. I'm sure these are the things which have been the driving factors. They have been guiding my guiding factors, guiding beacon. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a wonderful conversation, in fact, an insightful one, wherein both of us also got to learn so many more things. And this conversation with you, sir, I mean, there was a perception of you that I had before having this conversation, which probably has changed a bit. And thank you so much for giving us this opportunity, bestowing us with this opportunity to have this interview with you. And I believe, and both of us really hope, wish, and pray that this interview reaches as many people as it can, especially the younger generation, so that they can build their narratives based on this. They can try and question things that they should be instead of being scared, which is something that probably you were trying to mention, that you always have to speak your mind, which is something very rare in today's generation with the authority and with the fear that the authority has bestowed upon all of us. So thank you so much on behalf of Camo Conversations. And Shivani, would you like to say something?
Sure, it was an honor having you, sir, and to get this rejuvenating thought that we are all grounded and bound by the same, and having somebody so accomplished as her telling us that you should speak your mind, and respect this does not come with agreeing. It comes with you speaking your mind and having that faith in yourself that your thoughts are very important. And it is an honor because sir has just made me feel more confident about putting my thoughts across the table. So thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
sir.
much, Savni and Shivani. It's a great honor for me to be sharing my thoughts with you, especially because you are two who are working towards spreading the message to uh, your peer group, the youth of the country, and shaping their thought process for something positive, working towards nation building, and motivating them for seeking, I would say, greater achievements. So I think my compliments to you both, and I would like to wish you the very best for success of your Camo Conversations, and may it scale greater heights.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much, sir.
much.
Thank